right after this encounter. We need to ask ourselves a very basic and very simple question. Has peace really returned to the valley since the abrogation of Article 370? Yes, the data does indeed point to the fact that the number of terrorist incidents has come down and come down quite substantially. The number of infiltrations has also come down quite substantially. But is the problem of terror really over? Or should we keep faith? Because this problem is not going to be solved in a day or a month or a year. This is going to be a long-term problem which needs a long-term solution. So, is the solution really beginning with that we need to keep the faith, that we need to believe that the Indian armed forces are capable of ridding Kashmir Valley once and for all of this menace of terrorism? But first, the story.
I'm also feeling sad being from the same family. And we hope that people who have carried out these things, they will be sorted out soon.
जब तक कोई रास्ता न ढूंढा जाए जिससे अमन आ सके, लड़ाई से अमन नहीं आता है।
आर्मी के चीफ को सड़क का गुंडा कहती है कांग्रेस और आतंकवादी के मन को पढ़ने के लिए प्रयास करना चाहिए, इस बयान की हम निंदा करते हैं।
I want to show you two contrasting images and I want you to focus on this one first. These are images that have come from Panchkula. These are the images from the house, the residence of Colonel Manpreet. This young boy here is his young son, Kabir. He's all of 6 years old. He is saluting his father's dead body, the coffin in which his father's dead body has been brought. He's too young to even realize the gravity of what's gone on here. He's wearing army fatigues. He's saluting his father's dead body. He's there on the shoulders of one of his father's old colleagues. And he's saluting the tricolor draped coffin of his father. Like I said, he's just 6 years old. He's too young to realize what has happened to his family, what has happened to his father. But the spirit of that 6-year-old who is saluting with bravery and fortitude the dead body of his father amidst this sea of people who are wailing, who are in tears, who realize, adults who realize what has happened to Colonel Manpreet and what this means to Colonel Manpreet's family, his young wife and the kids that he leaves behind. They realize what is going on. So this is one image that I want you to focus on. The other image is what we're showing on this side of the screen. This is courtesy our neighbor on the west, where they are using now sophisticated drone technology. You can see this is pictures from the night, so it's a little illuminated if you will. Pictures from the night and there's a person literally hanging onto a drone. A human being, an individual is hanging onto a drone. This drone then transports this human being from the other side of the border, the other side of the line of control to the Indian side. You can see it, you can see this. There are people receiving this man who's being transported by a drone. Now the point that this visual, this rather engrossing visual, this rather captivating visual, the point that it's trying to make is that our enemy on the west, the country on the west which believes in bleeding India by 1,000 cuts, whose policy is that terror is an instrument of state policy, is developing technology to the extent where they are transporting human beings. They can carry the weight of a full human body and then deposit that person on the other side of the border. This is new age warfare. And I want our viewers tonight to be very, very clear about this. This is what we are dealing with. This is what the enemy state to our western border is doing. They are physically transporting terrorists and terrorist elements through these human drones onto the other side. So this is a war, and this is a war that's going to continue for a number of years, and we need to have the patience as a country, as a society, to rid this once and for all. So any amount of, facts that are being put forth, or any amount of data that seems to suggest that yes, the numbers have improved, the number of terrorist incidents have gone down, terrorist infiltration has come down, all of that may be true. But you're not going to rid this problem of terrorism coming from the other side of the border until there is a holistic approach and until we have the patience to see this through. So let me now, in that spirit, invite all our guests who are joining us. Shazia Ilmi is spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Shoma Mohammed is spokesperson of the Congress Party, SP Vaid is former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir. He knows a thing or two about how to eradicate terrorism, the menace of terrorism from the Kashmir Valley. Lieutenant General Satish Dua is former Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff and former GOC of 15 Corps, one of the very, very important battalions and regiments that is, of course, there based in Kashmir. And Arzu Kazmi is a senior Pakistani journalist who is joining us. Let me start with you, Shazia Almi. The accusation against the BJP government, against the NDA government, against the Modi Sarkar from the opposition India Alliance and your political opponents is that you talk a big game. You say Article 370 was abrogated, the number of terrorist incidents have come down, the number of infiltrations have come down. All of that, there is data to back it. But the reality is, it also leads to what has happened in Anantnag. 3 of our brave soldiers have died, and I'm afraid the death toll will go up, is likely to go up. And this includes, by the way, a commanding officer, a major, and a deputy superintendent of police. So there is nothing to gloat about the fact that after 370, terrorist incidents have come down. This is the charge from the opposition. Please respond.
No, there is nothing to gloat about. We saw the most heart-wrenching visuals. And I think all of us found it difficult to see them because they do something to you, because you see the loss of your people, and it only strengthens your resolve, and not just of my party or our government, but also of our armed forces and all the people involved to avenge the deaths of our people. So there is no way one can gloat over something like that. One can only do more than what is being done. And you're right, there is a hybrid warfare in place. All kind of unconventional means are being used, will be used. You just gave us evidence of drones being used. And I actually do believe that it is important to mention that since the abrogation of Article 370 and scrapping of 35A, not only there have been fewer casual deaths, but also in terms of the entire network of overground workers has been smashed. Newly recruited militants have been done away with, and NI has played a very, very big role in finding the money trail. So a lot has happened. But of course, you must talk about all the great things that have happened, but must point out, and this is not the time to score political brownie points at all. It's very unfortunate. The former Home Minister of this country, P. Chidambaram, raising questions on India and Indian policy at this time, taking very little responsibility for all that has happened in the years that they have ruled. And the fact that they just sat on this very, on the whole idea of keeping 370 going, which actually led to the Algawad, the seeds were sown of a separate identity and allow and foster cross-border terrorism. And now to say this, in the midst of all efforts to not just bring peace to the people and to the region, and to work for them because there are constitutional mandates there, but to raise points on Indian policy at this point of time. Of course, we will answer this, and Anurag Thakur has spoken that there would be a befitting reply. After all, this government has also spoken and acted, and more than speaking. But one cannot at all at this point of time question the government at this point of time. I think political voices have to be the quietest at this point of time, and we must allow for other things and other
so let me
mechanisms
ask
to prevail. Then
Shama
politics
Mohammed,
and
Dr.
political
Shama Mohammed.
backstabbing and
You know, I don't want to get into this
ground scoring.
political tu meh meh, but the data is right there. It's hard data, it's hard facts. It's there right in front of you. Number one, the number of stone pelting incidents. Before Article 370 was abrogated, there were more than 5,000 stone pelting incidents. It's fallen to under 500. That's a 92% decrease. The number of encounters by security forces and terrorist operations have reduced from 539 before 370 to 369. The number of civilians killed in terrorist violence has shown an 11% decrease from 155 pre-370 abrogation to 138. And also police officers who are laying down their lives in the line of duty has shown a 57% decline from 345, it's come down to 150. This is hard data. There's no politics about it. This is hard data that's been shared by the government in Parliament, right? Now, how do you argue against this? You can say, yes, things like what happened in Anantnag have happened, and that's a reality. But at the same time, the data points to the fact that there's been a substantial fall in terrorist incidents, in terrorist infiltrations, in stone pelting, in civilians who've been killed, and in forces who've been killed. So how do you respond to that specifically, please?
Okay, thank you, Zaka. I found what Shazia Ilmi said at the end, that they should not ask us any questions, laughable. This is a democracy and we will continue to ask you questions. That is our right. Unless, of course, this country has moved into an undeclared emergency. Number two, what you've asked me, Zaka, let's understand that what you said is right. In the Kashmir Valley, it's gone down. But south of Pir Panjal, that is Jammu, Poonch and Rajouri, it has gone up. The militants have moved from there to here. And we also, now there is a wave, it's like Punjab and Nepal, they're coming in. Punjab, from there they go to Udhampur, and from there they've come into, through Balaya Katua, it's entering, the militancy is coming here. And let's also understand there is a drone technology in which they give ammunitions, arms, all of these things. So there is definitely an increase. I mean, this year itself in April, we lost 5 army personnels. Now, of course, day before, 3 of them. So there is, this year itself up to now, 34 army personnel have died and 72 civilians in this particular area. So the warfare has changed. The militants have come here. So let's understand what has happened. Now, for me, the saddest thing is, Zaka, I saw my Prime Minister saying when the earthquake happened in Morocco, his deepest condolences. He condoled them. Yesterday, he was wishing the Israeli New Year to the Israeli Prime Minister. I haven't heard a single word of condolence from the Prime Minister of this nation, condemning what happened and condoling the family. Why hasn't the Prime Minister, in fact, when this attack happened and he knew about it, he was in the headquarters celebrating the G20 success. Then I saw him in Chhattisgarh and I saw him in Madhya Pradesh, very busy on election campaign. Now the Prime Minister of this country needs to support our Jawans in their bad times too. It's not just the good times. Now, if elections was around the corner, I would see Prime Minister in tears and talking about it just like he spoke about Pulwama. I did not interrupt. I don't interrupt, please. Zaka, can you ask her to? Can you ask her to keep on Zaka? This way we can't debate. I did not interrupt. So what I'm
Shama Mohammed, you made a political charge.
I remember.
Shazia, let me respond to that.
Zaka, let me finish.
Yeah, sure.
And 26/11, I remember Shivraj Patil was asked to resign because he changed 3 dresses and these people attacked him. And even the media. Today the media, everybody is quiet on the Prime Minister. I want to know why.
So let Shazia Elmi respond to that. Let Shazia Elmi respond to that and then I'll go to our other guests after that. Shazia Elmi.
Yes, I mean, I can give you all the figures, and I didn't want to do that initially because it is such a sad moment. I think it's tragic to watch the 6-year-old Kabir salute his
I want to ask.
No, Shazia, one second. You asked a question. You asked a question. Let her respond. Let her respond. Shama, let her respond. Please yield. Let her respond. You asked her a question. Let her respond. Thank you. Yeah.
From 2019 to 23, 146 security personnel died, which is 56% less. You mentioned about stone pelting. I will tell you all the figures, whether it's different
he
encounters,
wants you
different
to answer to
insurgency
my
attacks,
question,
and all the
Shazia.
after
Do
this
not
before.
sideline the
But
question which I answered. That means
Shama,
the
one
Prime
second.
Minister
Shama,
will
one
get
second,
against the,
please.
Jawan.
Not this
She's
way.
not
Not this way.
She's not
Shama,
answering the
please.
question.
You've asked a
Our Prime
question.
Minister-
It's in your interest that you give her the opportunity to answer that question. Shazia Ilmi, yes. Thank you.
Our Prime Minister has spent every Diwali with the Jawans, and that is what a Prime Minister does. Not your former Prime Minister who uses the Navy and INS, to party and to have private parties for his family. Please don't even compare, Shama. You will have nowhere to go.
Okay.
So don't,
let me
and
bring
don't
in
use this
SP
again.
Ved,
And
former
don't bring it to
DGP.
this level.
Let me
Don't
let
bring
me
it this
let
to
me let me
this
let me
level
go
that
to
you brought
SP
it to.
Ved, the former DGP. Ved Saab, again I come back to this point that yes, hard data does show that the number of terrorist incidents, the number of terrorist infiltrations have come down. No doubt, a sense of calm, a sense of peace has come back to the Kashmir Valley 4 years after abrogation of Article 370. But it's also a reality what has happened in Anantnag. It's also a reality what happened to Colonel Manpreet and what happened to Major Ashish. Now, how do we collectively deal with this? Do we sort of mentally and steelily resolve ourselves that, look, this is the nature of this game, this is how terrorism is fought, it's not going to get over in a day or two or a month or 6 months, this is going to be a long haul? Or do we tell ourselves that, as Farooq Abdullah and Saifuddin Soz and others have been saying, that look, unless you talk to Pakistan, this problem is not going to resolve? So, what's the road ahead? What's the way ahead, Ved Saab?
Zaka, good evening. First of all, my tribute to the martyrs and their families. See, coming to your question, the political leadership of this country and security establishment must understand this is a covert war launched by Pakistan. You were showing how drones are being used, sophisticated equipment. This is no less than a covert war. And we have been facing this for last 75 years. And India will have to be mentally prepared for a very, very long haul. We don't know. God only knows how long it will continue. We don't see any change of heart in the Pakistani establishment. They may be down temporarily in economic terms. Their people may be dying of hunger, but there is absolutely no change in their policy of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. Coming to the present situation, there's no doubt about I'll see all these parameters. I don't want to be repetitive. There is tremendous change on ground. But then, as you said, it is also reality what happened there for yesterday. Now, let me take you here. All this is calibrated, the terrorism is calibrated by the establishment in Pakistan. When after Burhan Wani happened in 2016, from 17 onwards, when we launched Operation All Out, thousands of their cadres were eliminated, and they started feeling the pinch of shortage of weapons. Then about 2.5 years back, then started the pattern. We have been discussing on the TV how this targeted killing started, and use of small weapons like pistols. And after that phase was overpowered by J&K police and the security forces. Now, look at what is happening in Rajouri Poonch and what happened yesterday or day before yesterday in Anantnag. Now, there is a clear pattern that terrorists now are taking to hills, taking to forest areas, and something like guerrilla warfare. Look at the way both the places, how the dense forest has been used, and they have avoided the built-up area, the towns, the villages, and they have realized that once they get cornered in a built-up area, there is no chance of escape. Okay. Here, what happened therefore yesterday, they had a hideout. Somebody comes with the information. sometimes these sources are compromised, and you have the risk that the risk security forces face in a situation like this. Then when when
Okay.
when encirclement is done, when coordinate search operation is launched, generally the officer controlling it has to be purely secretive. No one else must know your movement, your troops movement, which route you are going to take. It has to be place of your choosing and timing of your choosing. I think what happened day for yesterday, there was advance information to the terrorists about the movement of these forces.
Yeah.
That is why they were able to inflict from the height, from their vantage point, and inflict the casualty to the
Okay.
leadership.
Before I go to Lieutenant General Satish Dua, I just want to play out possible reasons, 4 or 5 possible reasons as to why Pakistan is doing what it is doing. Now, remember, India has just very successfully completed the G20. It signified in many ways the rise of India's global stature. And of course, that is something that is rattling Pakistan. You've got a joint statement, you've got the corridor through the Middle East all the way to Western Europe. It's also a plot to try and sidetrack the plans to try and reboot elections in Jammu and Kashmir. Remember, elections are due in Jammu and Kashmir. The government is committed that it will happen in the next few months. This could be a plot to try and sideline that. Also, obstruct the development sort of drive that is happening. You have normal life returning in the Kashmir Valley. You have the shikaras out. You have tourism coming back in big numbers. So this is a bit to try and obstruct that development path by Pakistan after the abrogation of Article 370. Also, perhaps a bit to try and create newer terror routes. As one of our panelists was saying, the latest seems to be coming through Jammu, through Rajouri, through Poonch. There are also evidence showing that some of these terror infiltrations are happening from the Nepal border. This is not something that you saw in the past. This is sort of something that's happening in the recent few months. Also, this is a bit to try and create internal strife ahead of the big elections that are coming up. You have 5 states that are going to polls later this year. You have the general elections early part of next year. So this is a bit to try and create some kind of confusion before those elections. So let me ask Lieutenant General Satish Dua, there are a multitude of reasons why Pakistan wants to do this, and any of these reasons could be true. But the fact also remains, General Dua, that as DGP Vaid was saying, we also need to have secure intel. We also need to ensure that whenever there are encounters, whenever there are counter-terror operations that are happening, that information is very secretively guarded, and ensure that the safety of our personnel is paramount. It comes down to a sense that this is a war that is not going to end anytime soon. This is probably going to take months, if not years, and that we collectively as a society should be ready to bear with the costs of it. Are we ready to bear with the costs of it?
Saka, first of all, allow me to pay my tribute to the fallen heroes and condolences to their families. Before I answer your question proper, let me just dwell on the 5 or 6 points that you played out, you showed on the screen as to why Pakistan is fomenting this trouble. You yourself have brought out repeatedly during your interventions as to how parameters have improved over the last 4 years, whether it is stone pelting, violence on the streets. When I was a corps commander in 2016, when Burhan Wani was eliminated, I mean, you remember the times there was so much uncertainty in life. Today, life is it is heading back towards normalcy, and that is not acceptable to the terrorist tanzeems and their handlers across. And that is why they are changing the tactics. In the last couple of years, we saw targeted killings, soft targets, all in the towns, hybrid terrorists who use pistols and a couple of hand grenades and then merge into the crowds. No longer is that going to happen because they don't want feeling of normalcy to set in the hearts and minds of people. They want to instill fear, the feeling of uncertainty. And that is why they've moved away to mountains and jungles. Because in the inhabited areas, be it towns or villages, it is comparatively easier to hem them in. If you're in mountains and jungles, there are caves, as I have been speaking on a few other channels where I've seen in visuals, and you also have been showing perhaps earlier. There are caves in which the terrorists are holed up, and right across the south of the same Pir Panjal mountains is the other encounters of Poonch Rajouri happening, and you just now mentioned about how Jammu region is being activated as well.
Yeah.
So what is happening is that there is sort of there is a linkage between both these. And going to the South Kashmir and Anantnag, see how they have held out for 3 days. It's an occupational hazard. It is sad what has happened, but the fact is, while we are surely going to get them, the army will get them. The terrorists are hemmed in. Time is not, it doesn't matter how much time it takes, but they are boxed in. They are the cordon is tight. They will get them. This unit 19 RR, whose commanding officer and the company commander have fallen. Is a very fine unit. When I was a corps commander, it is this unit which got Burhan Wani. So that will happen. But the larger point is change of tactics is to keep the pot boiling. And we heard the army commander say 3 days ago, a Northern Army commander said that the terrorists are using the route through Nepal or through Jammu. You yourself showed how drones are being used to transport a man. So different things are being used. Coming back to your question, yes, we need smart intelligence. We need to use technological enablers. We are using drones. We are using rocket launchers. We are using automatic grenade launchers. All that thing has started. But we need smart intelligence. We need to rejig our intelligence, not only technical intelligence. We should not forget the value of human intelligence, sources and
Sure.
contact, and things like that. So it has to be a very concerted approach to defeat this. But it is something that's not going to happen in a hurry, because terrorists have the initiative, because they have to just create one incident and the security forces are reacting to that. So it is not going to go away anytime soon. And if you allow me, I'll stick my neck out to say before I end. There's a lot of talk about that we must talk. I hear talk about we must talk to
Yeah.
Pakistan. If there is a talk, if we talk to Pakistan, is there any guarantee that they're going to stop this sort of a thing? I don't think it's going to work that way. First, we must gain an upper hand, a very firm
Yes,
and tenable upper hand before we do that.
All right, I'm going to come to our guest in just one moment. I want to pull away
small
to a piece
point.
of breaking news
Just a
that's just coming in. This is exclusive drone footage that CNN News 18 has managed to access. It shows the terror hideout in the mountains, as well as the terrorists moving while grenades are being fired upon them. So clearly, this is footage that is having some kind of a very, very dramatic impact as to what exactly is going on in the deep reaches of these jungles. This is Anantnag CCTV footage. Drones have captured this footage, and you can see somebody playing this footage from their mobile phone, where it's very, very clear how these terrorists are making their moves from deep inside the jungles, and you can see how they are moving even as grenades are exploding right around them. It shows the terror hideout deep in the mountains. It also shows terrorists moving in and out even as grenades are being fired all around them. Ishan Bani has more details on this. He's our correspondent. Ishan, so these pictures speak 1,000 words, even far deep inside these jungles, inside these caves, while the security forces have managed to get weapons to be firing into those caves and into deep inside those jungles. We can even see these terrorists make away. They are running away even as grenades are exploding in front of them. Just walk us through these pictures, and what are the security forces saying about this, because they've managed to pin down their coordinates, they've managed to even film it through drone cameras, but they're not able to bring this encounter to a close.
Well, it's a hard encounter. It's not easy. Whatever we see in cities or in rural areas where house-to-house combat takes place, this is a difficult terrain to make a way towards the top of the mountain. So that is why drones are monitoring the entire move around that particular, belt where they had input about a hideout of these militants being present. And this is where, heavy, shelling is being done of grenades. There are also bullets raining all over that place. And in individuals. One can see there's a movement that the person who is operating the drone sites, and then you can also see the person moving through that particular time and that particular point of time when the recording is taking place. There are grenades being lobbed there. There are natural caves that the intelligence agencies had pointed out when Poonch and Rajouri attack took place, that there are natural caves to which the advantage is being taken, and the focus of these outfits are shifting from staying in the villages where they get there are intelligence inputs that are generated. They are preferring to stay in these mountainous areas where there are natural caves, and they want to stay there to stay away from the site while carrying out attack on security forces. But yes, so they were able to generate the input, and there you see in that drone footage that forces hurling grenades there, using weaponry there to make sure that they are able to eliminate those who are responsible for the killing of three officers. Two of them were highly decorated, and one was the SP was a very young officer. So yes, there is an complete attack taking place right now. But during the night time, the operation has been suspended. But as you see in the drone footage, that very much there is a hideout. There is a hideout behind these trees. There's a dense tree cover that is there. The forces were led there, but unfortunately at that time, there was a heavy firing done from these militants on the security forces who were coming up. They possibly had seen their movement, but now they have been surrounded by all sides by the security forces, and the encounter is still underway.
Okay, Shazia, you've just heard from my colleague about how this encounter is still going on. Yeah, the point is that till this comes to a close and these terrorists are neutralized, you are fair game. The government will be fair game for attacks from the opposition, including the likes of Shah Mohammed.
No, I don't think government should be fair game. The operation rages on, and we've seen unfortunate death of our people. And while we mourn the deaths and pay tribute to our brave soldiers, we must realize that this is not the time. If indeed you have to voice political dissent, I could have done the same. I could have questioned Shah Mohammed and said, do you agree with Saifuddin Soz, your leader, who says we should have talks with Pakistan? Do you agree with Chidambaram right now, who's actually questioning the present policy, which is post-abrogation of 370 or abrogation of 370? Should we question the fact that when it comes to strikes, and which led to a complete paralysis in J&K at one point of time, that there's an 86% reduction in those? Should we also at this point of time raise the fact that when it comes to insurgency and counter-insurgency and all the operations, that there is actually a fall, a reduction of deaths of our civilians and of our security personnel, and the stone pelting has come down by 98%. I don't think this is a time to even talk about those things, instead of talking about... And how does Shah Mohammed feel about the presence of Mehbooba Mufti and of Umar Abdullah? Those are not the questions I would have liked to ask, but I have first to ask them.
Is this the time to be politicizing? Your leader, Saifuddin Soz, has said we should be talking to Pakistan. I mean, what is the justification of this? Is this the position of the India Alliance, that we should be talking to Pakistan while our braves are being martyred?
Okay, I would like to say that I totally agree with General Vaid on few things. One is that he said we should have the upper hand, and I totally agree with him. And in terms of intelligence, that is very important. What I see is a lot of intelligence failure. I mean, we are having repeatedly same things. Now here below Pir Panjal, this area, Rajouri, Jammu, these forests, let me speak, these forests are very thick. We need to have a different way of tackling this. And let's understand that intelligence failure, we should correct from it. For example, we had Pulwama, 300 kgs of RDX next to them. What let me speak. What my question today is, have we found out what caused that intelligence failure? How did the RDX reach there is the question I ask. Let me speak.
Oh my God.
Zaka, can I just say one last point? I'm answering.
One at a time, please.
Let me finish.
Yes, Shah Mohammed, yeah.
Let me just finish, Shazia. So that, of course, and I firmly believe we should not talk to Pakistan, because we have been talking to them for a very long time and nothing has come out. We need to be very tough with Pakistan. Economic boycott is very important. We have to see to the world does an economic boycott on them, because they get funds for the arms. They get funds to take place. If they did not get funds, this would not have happened.
So what I'm trying to ask is, what have we learned from the past intelligence failures? Have we got something out of it? Just tell me, what is the report on the Pulwama intelligence failure? Can you show me a report, Shazia Ilmi? How did the 300 kg RDX reach there? Unless we find out how these things happen, we will be committing for
Shazia, final word. I've got to wrap up in 10 seconds.
For no reason.
Shazia, final word. Yeah.
And why didn't they have
I got to wrap up. Shama, please.
Why don't they have
Shama, please yield. Yeah, Shazia, how did the RDX reach there? The intel report in Pulwama is still not out. Yeah, Shazia.
So I will not indulge in this shallow shrieking, mud fest, mudslinging that Shama Mohammed wants to bring this conversation to. I will not do that. I would instead ask what INDI alliance stand is on P. Chidambaram questioning of abrogation of 371. The adoring stance of Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah, who both have questioned abrogation of 370.
Okay.
And conflating of this attack with the intelligence failure of our army and our people.
Okay.
And not our agencies. And not just that.
I'm going to have to leave it at that. I'm really out of time. Sorry about that. But thank you very much to all our guests. We'll see how this plays out. Like I said, the last thing we need right now is some kind of politicization of this attack. What we need is A, that these terrorists be eliminated and that this encounter be drawn to a close, and most importantly, spare a thought for young 6-year-old Kabir, who's lost his father, Colonel Manpreet Singh. Like I said, he's too young to realize what's happened to him and to his family and to his dad, but we do. We as adults do. We as Indians do. And it's incumbent on us to hold that young kid and his family, the young wife of Colonel Manpreet, in our thoughts and prayers, even as we mourn our dead. All right, as we move on to our second segment, I also want to bring you up to speed with everything you need to know about our three fallen heroes. Colonel Manpreet Singh, who was a commanding officer, Major Ashish Dhonchak, and also Jammu and Kashmir Deputy Superintendent of Police, Humayun Bhatt. All three of them laid down their lives while trying to protect this nation. This is their story.
Remember the names Colonel Manpreet Singh, Major Ashish Dhonchak and DSP Humayun Bhatt, as they laid down their lives and made supreme sacrifices while protecting the nation. The three fallen heroes of Anantnag have left an indelible mark in the sands of time. Amid a steady stream of mourners, the crowd witnessed Colonel Manpreet Singh's 8-year-old son Kabir and 2-year-old daughter Wani wearing a camouflage uniform, bidding goodbye to their brave father. A second-generation soldier hailing from Ropar, district of Punjab, Colonel Manpreet Singh led the 19 Rashtriya Rifles Battalion and served 17 years of his life with the Indian Army.
आप कैसे देखते हैं उनकी शहादत को, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं
I have no words to explain. What more can I?
आपने भी कहीं ना कहीं सेना का बैकग्राउंड रहा।
मैं बैकग्राउंड सारी फैमिली मेरी बैकग्राउंड सेना की रही है।
आप खुद भी
I myself was there in that regiment.
His father also served in the armed forces and passed away the year 2014. A pall of gloom descended Mohali on Wednesday as his family members were informed about the loss of his life, leaving behind his mother, wife and 2 children. His grieving sister was seen tying a rakhi on Colonel Singh's coffin, bidding him adieu.
आपकी तकलीफ को दुनिया महसूस कर रही है। आपने अपना बेटा देश के नाम किया, समर्पित किया। कैसी यादें आप, जबकि आज उनका अंतिम संस्कार भी होना है।
मेरे बेटे की याद तो सदा ही रहने। मेरे पुत्र ने छुट्टी आया था, आज छुट्टी पहले ही आ गया। लंबी छुट्टी आ गया, मेरा बेटा लंबी छुट्टी करा गया। मेरा बेटा लंबी छुट्टी करा गया। घर आने से पहले ही आ गया। हाय मेरा बेटा शहीद हो गया। मेरा कर्नल शहीद हो गया।
A resident of Panipat in Haryana, Major Ashish Dhonchak spoke to his family 3 days before he was killed in Anantnag encounter, informing them about being a part of an assignment. The last time he called his family, Major Dhonchak was excited to come for a housewarming ceremony of his new home in Panipat. But the tragic turn of events in Anantnag completely shattered Major Donchak's family as they were seen sobbing inconsolably, bringing his mortal remains to their new residence.
बहुत ही अच्छे इंसान थे वो, बहुत ही मतलब मैं उनके पास जाता रहता था और पिछले साल उनको अपने कार्यों की वजह से सेना मेडल भी मिला और उनको मेरी तरफ से सलाम और आज के दिन को चलिए.
Major Donchak was posted in Jammu and Kashmir 2 years ago. Just a month before his tragic death, he won this year's Sena Medal on Independence Day by President Draupadi Murmu. The Major visited his hometown few months ago to attend a wedding. He left behind his wife and a 2-year-old daughter and 3 sisters. Deputy Superintendent Humayun Bhatt, a Jammu and Kashmir police officer, was laid to rest on Thursday. Sea of mourners turned up to pay last respects to DSP Bhatt, whose mortal remains, draped in a tricolour, arrived at his village in Jammu and Kashmir's Budgam. Amongst the mourners was also his wife, who stood with their 2-month-old daughter in her lap. As India continues to battle Pakistan's cross-border terrorism, the nation won't forgive or forget its fallen soldiers. Bureau Report, CNN News 18.
So there's a lot of debate around the term Sanatan Dharma, what it actually means. There is a set of politicians, particularly from the TMK and also others from South India, who believe that Sanatan Dharma is equal to the caste hierarchy or the caste system in Hinduism. There are, of course, a large number of people and also politicians from the northern part of India who believe that this is a complete and total insult to the Hindu way of life and something that is practiced by more than 80% of the population of this country. To try and make sense of what this actually means and whether there is actually a north-south divide or whether this is just politics, because some politicians believe and use this for political purposes to pandering to their own vote banks. I'm now joined by Swami Chidanand Saraswati ji. बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. I want to start off by asking you, Sanatan Dharma. What is the meaning of Sanatan Dharma? Because different people are seeming to interpret it in different ways. आपके मुताबिक क्या है इसका असली अर्थ क्या है इसका?
मुझे जो बचपन से लेकर आज जानने और जीने का अवसर मिला, मैंने तो ये समझा है सनातन का अर्थ है जो शाश्वत है, सदा के लिए है और सब के लिए है. इसलिए सनातन धर्म ने जो भी टर्म्स दिए हैं, जो भी डेफिनेशंस दी हैं, जो भी मंत्र दिए हैं, वो सबके लिए दिए हैं. और सबके लिए मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि जिस भी मंत्र को उठाकर देखे, अभी अभी हमारे देश में G20 हुआ. जस्ट इट वाज सो ब्यूटीफुल व्हेन वी हैड जस्ट विटनेस्ड G20. और उसमें मंत्र क्या था? वन अर्थ, वन फैमिली, वन फ्यूचर. वेयर इट केम? इट केम फ्रॉम सनातन धर्मा. वो क्या है? उसमें बताया जाता है कि वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, the whole world is one family. Then why people are conflicted or why people are not understanding this? In the mantra itself said, I am nijaha paroveti ganana lagu chetasam. I am nijaha, this is for me and this is for somebody else. This is me and this is others. When this separation takes place, then the problem starts. But mantra says we are all one, not only one, but one family. Believe me, this power of oneness, togetherness, allness and oneness is the key. This is the music is needed today. When we say Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, may all be happy, may all be healthy, all. This allness, this oneness, this inclusiveness is the essence of Sanatan Dharma. And we all, whenever we think as a family, we are all one and we take care of each other as family members. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अगर ये जो बात आज हम बोल रहे हैं, whatever has been said, everybody knows that, by few leaders has been said, मुझे लगता है कि आज टाइम आ गया है. Maybe because of ignorance, because of arrogance, or maybe other reasons, time has come. Time is now that we all definitely start looking India with Indian glasses. भारत को भारत की आंख से हम देखना शुरू करें। जिस दिन हम भारत को भारत की आंख से देखना शुरू करेंगे और राजनीति से नहीं प्रेरित होकर, नहीं राष्ट्र नीति से प्रेरित होकर करेंगे, मेरी कंट्री है, मेरा देश है, अगर ये मेरा देश है तो पक्का मानिए तो मुझे इसकी मिट्टी, इसके कण कण से प्यार होना चाहिए। फिर छोटी छोटी बातें केवल राजनीति के लिए नहीं, सत्ता के लिए नहीं, सनातन वो है जो सत्य के लिए जीता है, जो सबके लिए जीता है। और सत्ता कई बार किसी को सता के प्राप्त होती है, लेकिन सत्य तो खुद को तपा के प्राप्त होता है। हम रोज
लेकिन
जी
चिदानंद जी ये बताइए कि सम पॉलिटिशियंस, खासकर दक्षिण भारत से जो राजनेता जो जुड़ रहे हैं, उनका मानना ये है कि सनातन धर्म का एक अभिन्न हिस्सा है, एक अटूट हिस्सा है कि वर्णाश्रम धर्म जो है, विच इज द कास्ट सिस्टम, एंड दे आर सेइंग दैट द कास्ट सिस्टम इज इनहेरेंटली डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी और उसको हटा देना चाहिए, उसको मिटा देना चाहिए। तो उनका मानना ये है कि सनातन धर्म और जो कास्ट सिस्टम है, जो जाति रिवाज है, वो एक है और उसको हटा देना चाहिए। इसके बारे में आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
देखिए, let me tell you one thing very specific for South India. South Indian, they are the one who are really, whenever they meet somebody, they talk to somebody, वो लोग जाति की बात नहीं करते, वो लोग गोत्र की बात करते हैं कि मैं उस गोत्र से हूँ। उस गोत्र का नाम लेकर वो मिलते हैं एक दूसरे से। और आई अप्रिशिएट साउथ इंडियंस, दे रियली हैव सेव्ड दिस कल्चर कि गोत्र के द्वारा ही वो मिलते हैं। तो ये अगर हम लोग सब मिलकर जाति की बात को हटा दें, केवल एक गोत्र को रख ले। गोत्र क्या है? हम उस कश्यप ऋषि के गोत्र से हैं, हम भरद्वाज ऋषि के गोत्र से हैं, मतलब ऋषियों की संतान हैं। इन द बिगिनिंग क्या था? सब ऋषि थे, ऋषियों की संतान से हम आए, उस ऋषि से हमारा कनेक्शन है। हम और सारे कनेक्शन छोड़ दें, हम एक ऋषि जो हम थे, जो सी, ऋषि मीन द सीयर्स, ऋषि मीन्स हु कुड सी द मंत्रास of oneness, rishis who have given these mantras of ano bhadraha kratavo yantu vishwata, let all the noble thoughts come from all direction. दूसरा, and उसका मतलब ही है कि worship your own and respect all. These are the mantras are given by Sanatan Dharma, and those rishis, when they gave, it means we are connected to the rishis, and if we are connected and rishi gotra, if we accept it, मैं भी खुद कहता हूं गोत्र से जुड़ जाएं, जितनी भी कैस्ट हैं सबको खत्म कर दें, कोई जरूरत नहीं है। ये कैस्ट सिस्टम को लाया गया और ये दिस वाज ए डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर, इट वाज नॉट डिवीजन ऑफ बिटवीन ह्यूमन एंड ह्यूमन और ह्यूमन एंड एनिमल, इट वाज डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर। एनीवेयर यू गो, जहां भी आप जाइए, देयर इज अ डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर, इट्स नॉट डिवीजन ऑफ पीपल, डिवीजन ऑफ पर्सन्स, ऐसा नहीं है। तो वो आज भी है, कल भी रहेगा। गोल्डस्मिथ इज गोल्डस्मिथ, कारपेंटर इज कारपेंटर, साइंटिस्ट इज साइंटिस्ट, दिस नथिंग। जी
लेकिन ये बताइए कि उनका जो मानना है कि गोल्डस्मिथ का बेटा गोल्डस्मिथ ही होना चाहिए, ऐसा कोई लिखा नहीं है ना। गोल्डस्मिथ का बेटा साइंटिस्ट भी बन सकता है,
कोई जरूरी नहीं है, कोई जरूरी नहीं है।
साइंटिस्ट का बेटा गोल्डस्मिथ भी बन सकता है,
बेटा साइंटिस्ट हो सकता है।
जी,
नथिंग रॉन्ग इन इट, और होना चाहिए।
उनका मानना, उनका कहना ये,
मुझे तो लगता है कि सबसे बढ़िया होगा केवल नाम से पुकारें, इस जाति पाति की प्रथा को बंद करें हम लोग। तो हम वर्ण व्यवस्था को मानने वाले हैं।
तो आप मानते हैं कि जो भी व्यक्ति है, जो भी आदमी है, औरत है, सिर्फ उनके पहला जो नाम है, फर्स्ट नेम जो कहते हैं अंग्रेजी में, सिर्फ उसी से जाना जाए, उसी से पुकारा जाए?
बिल्कुल पुकारा जा सकता है, लेकिन समस्या हमारे समाज में ये है, इतना इट इज डीप रूटेड, इतना आसान नहीं है। इसलिए अगर एक चीज छुड़वानी है तो दूसरी चीज पकड़ा दो। उनको कह दो भी तुम्हारा गोत्र तो सबके पास है, सब कहीं ना कहीं से जुड़े हैं, हजारों जातियां हैं, हजारों अनगिनत, लेकिन गोत्र कितने हैं? 100 से 150, 125 गोत्र है। उन गोत्रों से जुड़ जाएं, उन ऋषियों से जुड़ जाएंगे, आप अपने कल्चर से जुड़ जाएंगे। और अपना कल्चर ही है जो नेचर से भी जोड़ता है। कल्चर और नेचर हमारे फ्यूचर से हमको जोड़ता है। इसलिए हमारे यहाँ, हमारे समाज में तो एआई की जब बात आती है, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की, हमारे यहाँ ये भी आती है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, एट द सेम टाइम एनआई, नेचर इंटेलिजेंस। हम नेचर को भी हमने जोड़ के रखा अपने साथ। हमने केवल ह्यूमन बीइंग की बात नहीं की, हमने लिविंग बीइंग की बात की। वी ऑलवेज टॉक अबाउट लिविंग बीइंग्स। Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu is one side. Then we talk about Om Bhadram Karane Vishnuyam. Then we say Om Devu Shanti Rantariksha Gung Shanti. Means all these mantras must be read, must be learned, and must be understood. You will be amazed. No one has these kind of mantras on this earth. What Bharatiya Indians have, these mantras are universal. Unfortunately, sometime, for some reason, some people, for some reason, it happens in life. But I pray for all of those people. They are our brothers. They are our sisters.
सिद्धानंद जी, एक फाइनल वर्ड मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो कहते हैं कि जो जाति रिवाज या कास्ट सिस्टम, कास्ट हायरार्की, ऐसा नहीं है कि जो बाकी जो मजहब है, चाहे वो इस्लाम हो या क्रिश्चियनिटी हो, ऐसा नहीं है कि उसमें वो नहीं है।
सब में है,
मुसलमान
इतने
भी
ज्यादा
है,
हैं कि
दलित
उसकी लोग
क्रिश्चियंस
बात
भी
नहीं
हैं।
करते। ये मजे की बात है,
लेकिन सिर्फ हिंदू फेथ में क्यों लोग जाति रिवाज के बारे में बात करते हैं?
केवल इसलिए कि आप किसी और के बारे में बोल के देखिए, सर तन से जुदा वाली बात हो जाएगी। इधर क्योंकि कन्वीनियंस है, आराम से बोल सकते हैं, वी आर वेरी टॉलरेंट, वी एक्सेप्ट ईच अदर, इसे यार ठीक है, हो जाएगा, अपने भाई हैं, आज बोल दिया कल ठीक हो जाएगा, बिकॉज वी आर वी एक्सेप्ट ईच अदर सो इजीली. बट व्हेन it attacks comes on Sanatan Dharma, then people become little sensitive about this. And होना भी चाहिए, क्योंकि हमें देश को किसी को छोटा करके नहीं बनाना है, हमें सबको साथ लेकर चलना है. अगर आप देखिए, अब अगर जब भी कोई बात आती है सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका प्रयास, ये क्यों है? क्योंकि these are the mantras have come from those, they are derived from those mantras. इसलिए मैं तो कहता हूँ ये अध्यात्म जिस दिन समझ में आ जाएगा उस दिन साइंस भी समझ में आ जाएगी, जिस दिन साइंस समझ में आ जाएगी उस दिन अध्यात्म समझ में आ जाएगी. साइंस एंड स्पिरिचुअलिटी गो टुगेदर हैंड इन हैंड. लुक एट दिस, आवर स्पेस साइंटिस्ट, आवर इसरो चेयरमैन. I was in America that day. I was very happy to see one thing. When media was asking him, oh, you went to temple, you did puja and you are a scientist. Don't you think so? You are a secular, you are a scientist. How you are doing this puja? उन्होंने पता है क्या प्यारा उत्तर दिया एस सोमनाथ ने. उसने कहा yes, for outer space I need science, but for inner space I need spirituality. There I find the solution for outer world. Here I find the solution for my inner world. And at the end of the day, what matters? My peace matters, my happiness matters, and that I get when I'm connected, when I'm anchored, when I'm grounded. I feel calm, composed, collected, connected, and that's what I share through that peace in the world, rather than
स्वामी चिदानंद सरस्वती जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस हियर ऑन CNN News 18. थैंक यू. धन्यवाद.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Our lead story tonight comes from China. Another minister has gone missing. The defense minister of the country. The US says he's been sacked, he's under house arrest and faces an investigation. Is this a purge? Beijing hasn't spoken yet, but this is a worrying trend. Businessmen, sports stars, film stars, foreign minister, defense minister, the vanishing act is becoming a highlight of Xi Jinping's presidency, and the world has reason to be concerned. Meanwhile, Erdogan is turning to China for Turkey's latest nuclear plant. In Pakistan, as the people suffer, the military is building more nukes. A new report reveals Pakistan's nuclear strategy and where and how they keep their warheads. Did Elon Musk interfere in the war in Ukraine? Did he sabotage a planned attack? The US Senate wants to investigate. How old is too old to run for president? We ask because America will most likely have to choose between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. In Italy, 7,000 immigrants land on an island in one day. That's more than the island's own population. And it's Engineers' Day in India. We'd like to discuss the headlines first. Tensions continue to soar between the US and China. Beijing sanctions 2 American defense companies over arms sales to Taiwan. In August, the US for the first time approved direct military aid to Taipei. China has sanctioned American firms over selling weapons to Taiwan in the past as well. Iran wants the European Union, calling their sanctions illegal. The UK, France and Germany said the sanctions will continue. These are on those involved in Iran's nuclear program. The sanctions were to be lifted in October as per the nuclear deal signed 8 years back, but the deal is now stuck in a limbo, and so the sanctions remain. The Pakistan-Afghanistan border crossing reopens after more than a week. The Torkham crossing was closed after border guards opened fire. The construction of an Afghan outpost led to this gun battle. Torkham is the busiest crossing between Pakistan and Afghanistan. US President Joe Biden's son Hunter Biden is indicted on gun charges. The 53-year-old is charged with illegally buying a gun in 2018 when he was using drugs. This casts a shadow on his father, Joe Biden's re-election campaign. It's the first time in American history that a sitting president's child has been prosecuted. Apple will update iPhone 12 in France. The move comes after regulators raised radiation fears. On Tuesday, France ordered a halt on the sales of the iPhone 12, which was released in 2020. And it's not bye for all you NSYNC fans. The American boy band reunites for their first new song in over 20 years. The song will feature in the upcoming movie Trolls Band Together. We begin with what's being called the mystery in Beijing. The plot is thickening. If Xi Jinping is the master magician, then China's defense minister is his latest trick. His name is Li Shangfu, and he is still missing. The latest reports say he has been sacked, but they don't answer some very basic questions like why. Also, where has he gone? But then again, we've seen this same script before. Same script, different protagonist. In the month of June, in fact, it was China's foreign minister. His name was Qin Gang. He too went missing. And then he was sacked. He's still missing. And now Defense Minister Li Shangfu is missing. Has he too been sacked? Well, we don't know for sure, and Beijing will not say. Listen to their response.
Where is China's Defense Minister Li Shangfu? Is he under investigation?
I'm not aware of the situation you mentioned.
This is remarkable. Two top ministers of China go missing, and Beijing's official spokesperson is clueless. She says, I'm not aware of the situation. Like always, there is an information vacuum, and this is fueling a lot of speculation. Defense Minister Li Shangfu has not been seen for over 2 weeks now. When was his last public appearance? In late August. He gave a speech at a China-Africa Security Conference, and since then he has not been seen. Neither has Beijing spoken about it. So China watchers are now retracing Li's steps. That's how they're trying to join the dots. Li Shangfu had a packed schedule. In recent weeks, he had meetings lined up. Last week, he was supposed to be in Vietnam. What for? A defense cooperation meeting. China and Vietnam were supposed to discuss their border. Li had to meet the defense leaders of Vietnam. This was supposed to be a 2-day engagement. The dates were 7th and 8th September. But just before the event, Li pulled out. Beijing told Hanoi the defense minister will not be able to come. Reason? Health condition. This is according to 2 Vietnamese officials. Does this ring a bell? It's like a story that's running on loop. When Qin Gang disappeared, China gave the same excuse. They said the minister is not keeping well. The story was hard to swallow then, and this one is equally tough to digest. In recent days, Defense Minister Li has missed more engagements. The Navy Chief of Singapore was in China. His name is Rear Admiral Shane Watt. He visited Beijing for 5 days, from 4th to 9th September. And the Defense Minister, Li Shangfu, was supposed to meet him too. But he did not show up. Even Singapore was taken by surprise. They haven't issued an official statement, but some reports have come out. They quote officials off the record. The Rear Admiral wanted to meet Defense Minister Li. The meeting was part of their official schedule, but it did not happen. We are not sure if China gave a reason for the no-show. And their record does not inspire confidence. Beijing has a history of being evasive, especially about such disappearances. So don't expect them to make a statement on Li's whereabouts. The information is flowing from other sources, like the United States of America. They seem to have insider info, and they say the Chinese defense minister could be under house arrest. I'll repeat that. The Chinese defense minister could be under house arrest. This has come from a top US diplomat. His name is Rahm Emanuel. He's the US ambassador to Japan, and he's been very vocal on this issue. In fact, it was this ambassador, he was the first person to shine light on Li's disappearance. He posted about it on social media a few days back, and now he says the minister is under house arrest. Notice the language he uses, quite unusual for a diplomat. But such are the times we live in. The US government has made an assessment. They have reason to believe that Li Shangfu is under investigation and that he's been sacked. So Li is no longer China's defense minister. That's what America says. China has not confirmed or denied this. What is Li being investigated for? Most likely a procurement scam. You see, before becoming the defense minister, Li Shangfu managed the PLA's procurement unit, the Chinese Army's procurement unit. And recently there were reports of corruption related to this unit. China has begun an investigation. So has the defense minister been purged? We may never get an official answer. Remember, the foreign minister has been gone for 3 months. He has not resurfaced, and Beijing has not bothered to explain what happened. That's how Xi Jinping operates. He skipped the G20 summit, no reasons given. His top ministers are missing, no explanation. This is both baffling and worrying. This unpredictability and lack of accountability poses a threat to the world. Imagine this from the perspective of a country like India. We share a 3,000-kilometer long border with China. There's a standoff, 3 years and counting. Last month, there was an agreement to de-escalate. Now the defense minister is MIA, missing in action. Where does that leave the border talks? Who should New Delhi engage with? At this rate, can you count on any minister in China or on any decision that they agree to? These are questions I'm sure the whole world is asking. What do you make of a country where the top businessmen go missing, where film stars and sports icons disappear, where top ministers vanish without a trace? It's unstable and dangerous, especially when it's the second largest economy in the world. Missing ministers or not, China's strategic ambition keeps growing. The next target is Turkey. Talks are underway for a new nuclear power plant. Ankara says the deal could happen soon. Chinese officials inspected possible locations. They're keen on this part, Eastern Thrace, which borders Greece and Bulgaria. If things go to plan, the deal could be signed within months, which means China could build a nuclear plant in Turkey. Now, this raises questions. What does Turkey's nuclear landscape look like? Why China? And what are the wider strategic implications of this? Let's go one by one. Turkey has 2 nuclear power plants. The first is under construction. It is being built by Russia. Reports say it will be operational by next year. The second is still being planned. It's down to Russia and South Korea. Either of them could build the second power plant. So the Chinese one will be the third. But why does Turkey need so many? Because they are spending too much on importing energy. Look at these numbers. Turkey's overall import bill is $364 billion, $364 billion. Out of this, $80 billion is energy. That's around 22%. So Ankara wants to reduce this dependence. They want to replace imported energy with domestic nuclear power. Plus, nuclear energy is considered green. And Turkey wants to be carbon neutral by 2050. For that, you need more nuclear power plants. In fact, 3 may not be enough. Ankara wants to produce 20 gigawatts from nuclear plants. That's 4 times the capacity of one plant. So the country needs a boost. Along with the big reactors, they may also need SMRs, small modular reactors, SMR. Last year, they reached out to Washington for these SMRs. Talks were on to buy around 35 of them, but that was in December 2022. Since then, there has been no update. Did the Americans back out? Is that why Turkey is reaching out to China? Well, maybe, but China's nuclear dominance is not new. It has been decades in the making. In the last century, the US was considered the gold standard. They had the best reactors. But recently, Washington has lost out. China is currently building 21 nuclear reactors. That's 2.5 times more than any other country. So the lead is massive. It also helps that China's nuclear power companies are state-run. They have government patronage. They get all the subsidies. So they have the edge. Which brings us to the final question. What are the strategic implications here? Well, nuclear cooperation is not like any other. It's unlike any other. It's not like building a factory abroad. Nuclear plants are strategic assets. You can't just build and leave. Take Russia, for example. They are also using nuclear power to exert influence. Moscow has 34 reactors operating in 11 countries. Some of them are US allies. In fact, Turkey is the best example. Like we said, their first nuclear plant is being built by Russia. It's called the Build, Own, Operate model. Build, Own, Operate. Moscow will send thousands of engineers to operate this plant. Only 30% of the workers will be local. Do you see the implications here? Russia will have a permanent strategic presence in Turkey, and looks like China wants the same. But what does it say about the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan? It shows that he's confident about China and Russia, that he trusts them. Just think about it. Would you trust your rivals with strategic nuclear assets? With more than 10% of your total electricity, chances are you won't. You would rather have your allies handle them, which is why Turkey's decision is so important and worth noting. We are talking about a NATO member here. Instead of going to the West, Erdogan is going to Russia and China for nuclear power. It's a sign of the growing divide. Last week, the West announced a new economic corridor with India. Erdogan opposed it. But the same Erdogan joined China's Belt and Road project. Last month, there was talk of Turkey also joining CPEC, that's the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Pakistan's then Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif invited Erdogan to join it. So the trajectory is quite clear. Erdogan is linking his fortunes to Russia and China. He can do that without fearing the US. After all, Ankara is still Washington's treaty ally, NATO member. We saw that leverage earlier this year. Finland and Sweden were looking to join the NATO. Erdogan agreed, but with conditions. Finland has joined the alliance. Sweden is still being held up. Reports say Erdogan wants F-16 fighter jets from the US, then he will accept. So my point is, Erdogan finds himself in a diplomatic sweet spot. He can build reactors with China. He can buy fighter jets from the US, he can sell drones to Ukraine and purchase military systems from Russia, all without consequences. It's a fine line that the Turkish president is trying to walk. Speaking of nuclear power, Pakistan is expanding its nuclear arsenal. Even as the citizens struggle for basic necessities, Islamabad, or should I say Rawalpindi, is chasing a bigger nuclear stockpile. A new report is out, and it is revealing. It looks into Pakistan's nuclear program and how it is being steadily ramped up. More warheads are being added. The military is getting more delivery systems, also new launch facilities. Tonight, we'll bring you all the details. How many nuclear warheads does Pakistan have? At least 170, 170. The highest number ever. In 2018, Pakistan had 150 warheads. In 2020, they added 10. And in 3 years, they've added another 10. So you could say Pakistan's arsenal is growing at a faster pace. In the past 4 years, they've added some 20 warheads. This expansion should worry neighbors like India. It has certainly taken experts by surprise. You see, in 1999, the US had made a projection. They said that by the year 2020, Pakistan would have 60 to 80 warheads. 60 to 80 by 2020. Look at the current number, 170. That's more than twice the estimate. And it won't end here. Pakistan's stockpile could grow further. That's what a new projection says. That they're aiming for 200 warheads. And they could get there by the end of this decade. If Pakistan keeps producing at the current pace, they will have 200 warheads by the end of this decade. And Rawalpindi is trying to make sure that happens. It is building more infrastructure. There are facilities that can enrich uranium. What is the current production rate? Experts believe Pakistan can build 14 to 27 warheads every year. How is that even possible? To answer that, we must first tell you about fissile material. It's like lighting a matchstick. When you strike on a rough surface, a matchstick lights up. Now imagine there are other matchsticks lined up close. One flame will end up igniting all of them. And that's what fissile material does in a nuclear bomb. When a nuclear weapon is fired, the fissile material starts a reaction. It releases massive amounts of energy, and this finally leads to an explosion. Usually, two kinds of materials are used for this: plutonium-239 and uranium-235. They make the nuclear bomb. And they make the bomb work. They fuel the bomb. Reports say Pakistan is now making enough of these materials, and that is how they can accelerate warhead production. But having a warhead is not enough. You need somewhere to fire it from, and Pakistan is making strides in that department too. We have a breakup for you. First, let's talk about the land-based systems. Pakistan has at least 6 of them. It plans to add at least 2 more. They're believed to be in development. Next, we have the garrisons. This is where they're believed to be keeping their nukes in garrisons. And how many garrisons does Pakistan have? At least 5. We have the names: Akro, Gujranwala, Khuzdar, Pano Akil and Sargoda. These are the names of the garrisons. 2 of them are in northern Pakistan, 3 are in the south. What about air power? Pakistan has 4 air bases. This is where they keep their nuclear capable aircraft. Minhas or Kamra, Rafiki, Shehbaz and Masroor. These are the names of their air bases. 2 are in the north and 2 are in the south. And what kind of planes can fire nukes? 2 aircraft in Pakistan's arsenal can do the job, the Mirage 3 and the Mirage 5. How many squadrons? At least 5. Pakistan has given them special names: Bandits, Haidars, Ghazis, Cobras and Zarras. Needless to say, all of these bases and garrisons are close to the Indian border for obvious reasons. It also shows that Pakistan has a pretty exhaustive plan to ramp up its nukes. And this should worry the world, not just India, the rest of the world too. Last year, US President Joe Biden spoke about this. He said, and I quote, "I think Pakistan is maybe one of the most dangerous nations in the world. Nuclear weapons without any cohesion." That's what he said about Pakistan. Now, Islamabad had called this claim baseless. But soon after that, the entire nation plunged into economic turmoil. The suffering has been immense, but only for the people, not for the Pakistani military. Their assets and budgets keep growing, and now Pakistan's nuclear reserves are on the rise. So here's what we'd like to ask. Is the IMF watching this? How is a country that survives on bailouts being allowed to build these dangerous weapons? And how is the world okay with this? Pakistan and nukes, basically a rogue actor with too much power. A lot like Elon Musk, you could say. He's the richest person in the world. He also has an opinion on everything, on business, on culture, on technology, and lately on geopolitics. Now, having an opinion is fine. It's a free world. You can think what you want to. But Elon Musk's opinions are shaping wars and conflicts. And that is too much power for one individual, one private, unelected individual. Some lawmakers in the US have noticed this. A Senate committee has decided to probe Elon Musk's company SpaceX, specifically one decision. In September last year, Ukraine was plotting a drone attack on Crimea, a drone strike. They wanted to sink Russian warships. And to control the drones, they needed internet. Just one problem though, Russia had knocked out Ukraine's connectivity. So Kiev asked SpaceX to help. The company has Starlink satellites over Crimea. If those were activated, Ukraine would get internet and the drones could be fired. But as it turned out, Elon Musk refused. He was scared of a Russian nuclear response. And no one knew of this. No one knew any of this. It was revealed only recently. In a new Elon Musk biography. You can see why it's a problem. How can one man decide the fate of a major military operation, and that to a businessman? US lawmakers are expected to ask this question. They want to understand the national security implications of what Musk did, also why he did it. After all, Elon Musk is a US citizen. He recently said he will fight and die for the US. Then why did he not turn on the satellite? This was Elon Musk's response. Listen to this.
The region around Crimea was actually turned off. Now, the reason it was turned off was actually originally was because the United States had sanctions against Russia, and we were not allowed to actually, and that includes Crimea in the sanctions. If I had received a presidential directive to turn it on, I would have done so because I do regard the president as the chief executive officer of the country,
Two things to note here. One, he says Starlink was not activated because of US sanctions. It wasn't his personal decision. And two, if Joe Biden had asked him to activate Starlink, he would have done so. I guess it's easy to say now, just shift the blame to Washington. But either way, questions need to be asked because it's not just Ukraine. Elon Musk is wading into the biggest conflicts of our times, even Taiwan. He says Taiwan is to China what Hawaii is to the US. You have to listen to this.
From this standpoint, it may be as analogous to like Hawaii or something like that, like an integral part of China that is arbitrarily not part of China, mostly because of the U.S. U.S. Pacific Fleet has stopped any sort of reunification effort force.
Both are islands, yes, But beyond that, there is no comparison. Hawaii became a US state after a referendum. Around 93% voters said yes, they wanted to be a US state. And that is not the case in Taiwan. Around 90% of Taiwan's population opposes reunification with China. They like democracy. So comparing Taiwan and Hawaii is inaccurate. The statement has triggered a sharp response from Taiwan. This is what their foreign ministry is saying, and I'm quoting, "Hope Elon Musk can also ask China to open Twitter to its people. Perhaps he thinks banning it is a good policy. Like turning off Starlink to thwart Ukraine's counter-strike. Listen up, Taiwan is not part of the PRC and certainly not for sale." All we can say is, ouch. But then again, what did Elon Musk expect? He's made a habit of this. Last year, he made a similar suggestion. He asked Taipei to give China some control over Taiwan, basically give the bully what they want. Do you see the problem here? Taiwan and Ukraine are the biggest flashpoints of our times. Elon Musk can influence both. He can sabotage Ukraine's counteroffensive. He can also hijack Taiwan's public opinion. Because remember, Musk does not just own SpaceX, he also owns Twitter, which he now calls X. And that's too much power for one individual. So what is the solution? Well, the Senate investigation is a good start. It will answer some important questions. For example, what is the contract between SpaceX and the Pentagon? Was the contract active during Ukraine's foiled attack? Why didn't US officials play a more active role? These questions could set a precedent for the future, not just for Elon Musk, but for all these big companies. Google faced similar accusations in 2018. They had signed a deal with the Pentagon. Under this deal, Google's artificial intelligence was used to analyze drone footage, presumably to match targets. Facebook's role in Myanmar is another example. Hateful content and fake news was spread about the Rohingya community. Facebook knew, but did nothing. We all know what happened next. An entire community was forced into an exodus. Should companies have this kind of power? In an ideal world, no. But the likes of Google and Twitter are facts of life. You can't wish them away. What you can do is curb them, limit how they can use their influence in such situations, like war or communal riots. If not, we could be sliding down a slippery slope. And straight ahead is corporate autocracy. Now let's move from Musk to the war he supposedly sabotaged. Ukraine's counteroffensive is still going slow. It hasn't made any significant territorial gains. Now it seems they're shifting focus. Kiev is training its guns on Crimea. This Wednesday, Ukraine hit Crimea with an early morning attack. The target was Sevastopol. It has a strategic shipyard, which is home to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Ukraine attacked it with 10 cruise missiles and 3 uncrewed speedboats. Last night, Zelensky hailed the destruction of a Russian air defense system in Crimea. On Monday, Ukraine said it had captured an oil rig near Crimea. So the trajectory is clear. Ukraine is targeting Crimea, the region that Russia captured in 2014. And how is Moscow responding? Looks like Vladimir Putin is turning to his friends. He courted North Korea's Kim Jong-un this week, and now he's met Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Here's a report.
On Wednesday, cruise missiles rained down on Sevastopol. It's the largest settlement in the Crimean Peninsula, and it contains a crucial Russian naval base. The shipyard in Sevastopol is the home base for Russia's Black Sea Fleet. It's also where the fleet undergoes repairs, so it's essential for Russia's naval dominance in the Black Sea. Ukraine, of course, knows this, which is why it launched an early morning attack on Wednesday. Russia says 10 cruise missiles and 3 uncrewed boats attacked Sevastopol. In the morning, smoke was seen billowing out of the shipyard.
We were woken by a loud noise. My child was woken up as well. It was about 3 a.m. We got very scared. Everything was shaking. That's basically how it was.
Satellite imagery showed damage to some vessels under repair. The company that released the images said a landing ship and a submarine were damaged. Russia's defense ministry confirmed that 2 vessels were hit. But it said that both ships would be fully repaired and return to service. This wasn't the only attack on Crimea this week.
One more thing. A special mention should be made to the entire personnel of the Security Service of Ukraine as well as our naval forces. I thank you for today's triumph. The invaders' air defense system on the Crimean land was destroyed. Very significant, well done. Glory to all who fight for Ukraine, and thanks to everyone who helps.
That was Zelensky's address on Thursday night. Ukraine struck Russian air defense systems in the west of Crimea. Russia didn't confirm the destruction, but it said it shot down 11 drones overnight. And these aren't the only recent incidents of Ukrainian operations around Crimea. On Monday, Kyiv released this footage. It shows Ukrainian troops capturing an oil rig. Russia had taken the platform from Ukraine back in 2015, a year after the annexation of Crimea. Ukraine says the platform was being used for military purposes.
During inspection, we found unguided airborne missiles in the engine room. We understood that the enemy used the platform as a warehouse for ammunition. We also found cisterns with petrol. This platform was very important for the enemy. That's where they refueled and kept ammunition.
These attacks in and around Crimea come as Ukraine fails to make much headway over land. The